slash scholarship slash ability to go to the Runway Bootcamp. And Runway is a place down here in Geelong and in Ballarat where startups go to accelerators. It's a co-working space as well as multiple. So I've been given some of the beautiful Brad Bott of Velocity Solar, who won last Thursday. He won a pitching contest. He came third place and got gifted the bootcamp ticket. But because he's already done it, and he doesn't, and there was like I think about 10 minutes ago while I was pitching him the ideas of, oh, you go to the bootcamp for this, or you need to do like other things, and he was looking at me going, so that's what I'm doing. So the reason I'm coming on early is because the workshops themselves start at 5:30 today and tomorrow, and well, be there and here at the same time, and it wouldn't be fair to live stream that type of event because and also I'm enjoying a adults version of a bath bomb making class here, so that's also at 4:30, so I'll be running and making things work, but we'll do what we gotta do, and I am tired and exhausted, but nothing new is there. So I'm just going live and making sure everyone's all good to go. And I believe we are. So, beautiful. Okay. So, we'll get going. G'day everyone, and welcome everyone in the hashtag rewatch squad. So that's everyone who's just arrived and who hasn't been able to watch us in the live stream. But for everyone else, welcome and joining us. I'm just going to go to and put my notes on screen here so I can see. G'day Joel. And I'm going to welcome everyone and hopefully get my notes up here on screen nice and well. And I'll wave to you, Joel. Thanks for joining us. So, for some of you who may be new to the live streams that we do regularly, hello. But the reason that we're doing a live stream this early, now for most people who have seen us do live streams, I think we're about week 7 or 8, I can't exactly remember. We are usually do our live streams around about, we do our live streams around about 6 of an evening, and right now, for those who are live, it is currently 3 p.m. or just bordering on 3 p.m., which may seem like that's 3 hours out of time Zoe. You're not in Perth or anywhere. What is going on? So essentially what I'm doing at the moment is I'd love to give you guys the news that I've been accepted into a bootcamp program run by Runway HQ. So Runway is a local company and showcase down here in Geelong, and there's also one in Ballarat that's the same thing, they go together, where it's a combination of things. It's a co-working space for startups or businesses that are just getting that level up and going, and they've also they run accelerator programs for startup businesses or people that have a good idea, and also they run a lot of events and such things to help small businesses and startups in the Geelong and regional Australia community. And I've been, luckily enough, been given I would call it a scholarship. It's a ticket to the bootcamp that is running both tonight and tomorrow night for the bootcamp, which is essentially a very small, minute version of their accelerator program, which I believe their accelerator program is like 6 months or something. But the bootcamp is supposed to be like kind of like an introductory guide. And even though, yes, I am running a business, it's always good to learn. And say, for example, it would be nice to learn how to do an MVP. An MVP is not like you're the man. An MVP is a minimum viable product, which is something either a product or a service or something that you can give the customer right away. It's really easy for you to do, or it's really something straightforward for you to be able to accomplish as the business owner. And I haven't been able to put much time and thought into that because I'm trying to, make money and survive. So, thank you, Joel and Matic Creative, for for your comment. And essentially that's why I'm doing this live stream early, because the boot camp itself starts at 5:30 tonight and runs till about 9, and the same thing that's going to happen tomorrow night. And it's going to be kind of hard to do a live stream in the middle of that, and it wouldn't really be nice for me to be conducting a live stream, when other people are trying to learn. So I'm doing this live stream really early, so I'm able to do the weekly live stream. I'm not going to skip a beat. I'm just going to maneuver it around and be able to give that to you in time. And I'll be able to give you a whole bunch of news halfway through today's session. But if you have any questions or any comments or anything that you want to know, feel free to comment below, and I will do my best to answer them as we go along. And so since I have my desktop in front of me, I'll be able to answer any of your questions and we'll be all good. So what I'm going to focus on today is I'm going to ask you a question first. So you may have seen the title in all the stuff that you're looking at so far, but it's about the best ways to rehearse for your video. Now, some of you may think, hold on, Zoe, why do I even need to rehearse for this? Just get in front of the camera and go. Some of you may think there's only one way to rehearse, like do it. And yes and no, that's not entirely true. Say, for example, when, learning to, play an instrument, or learning to cook a meal or do something of that, you constantly test and tweak as you go along. But you're not, cooking a full 4-course meal for an entire, group full of people in your first try. But you're also, not conducting, you're also not doing a full song in your first try either. Same thing with video. You need to work yourself up and you need to practice what you're going to say and how you're going to say it before you get into the zone. So we're almost about 10 minutes in, and I just wanted to welcome everyone who's come to the live stream, and today we're talking about the best ways to rehearse for your video. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below, but we shall get cracking. And the reason we're doing this early is because I've been given a scholarship to go to a program down here in Geelong for startups and small businesses, and I'm going to take it. But the only thing is, it occurs usually when we do our live streams, so that's why I'm going to do that. But I want to ask you guys that if you know anyone, any business owners or anyone who really needs to hear this, or who has been struggling about getting even their head around video production for their business, or doing videos even for themselves in private. And I don't mean that way. I mean like with your family and with your friends, because some people just don't like that idea of just getting in front of the camera, even for fun. What I recommend that you do is that you invite them onto the stream, you tag them, you share with them, and even if they don't get to see this while we're live, we do the same thing every week, not at the same time though, usually at 6 p.m, for people to, answer us questions while we're here. And if not, you can always DM us and contact us, whichever platform you suit. Now, back into it. We're going to talk about rehearsing for your video. Sorry. New drugs that don't really do nothing. All right. So today what we're going to be talking about, and if you do hear any noises around me, unfortunately, in the studio where we are, there will be some noises happening around us, just because I am filming a lot earlier than I usually do. Therefore, there's usually a lot more people running around and talking, and it's also school holidays, so you're probably going to hear a few kids like these ones that are coming up right now. So if you do, feel free to ignore them, because, we're doing live content. Things aren't always going to go to plan. But at least we don't have a mower. If you've been to our workshops, you know what that reference means. So the best way to rehearse for your video, as I mentioned, as I touched on lightly before, that yes, you could go in full guns a-blazing without any practice at all and doing a video. The only thing is, you may not do it right the first time. And there's no reason for you not to do great the first time. Hey, people do that too. But there is a tendency for people to think of what the professionals that they watch on YouTube, on television, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or wherever they watch these professionals do it. As an outsider, you get a tendency of thinking, oh, this is easy. I can do this. I can get in front of the camera. I can, turn it on that easy and just go do it. And then you end up giving it a shot and then finding, oh, no, this isn't this isn't as easy as I thought. And the reason it looks so easy is because that's how it's supposed to go. It's as someone who's done this for many years, that's the point of making it look easy, is so that you feel approachable, that you look human, that you draw the audience in through the camera lens. Because yes, between you and me there is a screen currently, and I can't like draw you in as easily as I would if we were face to face, but you still get my essence and still get my personality, and be able to work around that. And if I'm hopefully engaging enough, I'll be able to bring you on inside along for the ride, and hopefully make it seem easier for you. So then when you give it yourself, when you actually do it yourself and give it a shot, then it doesn't seem that overcumbersome to give it a shot, if you know what I mean. I've used that terminology a bit too many times. But what I want to talk to you about is thinking of two terms when you're about to rehearse for a video. So for any of you who are unaware, we have a few products or a few worksheets that we give out to people at workshops, and you can also download yourself. So we have a checklist, a get ready before you press record checklist, which just goes through all the things that you need to think about or would need to think about before doing a recorded video or doing a live. And it's just all the things that, instead of your brain and trying to store all that knowledge and all those ideas in your head and trying to think of them as you go, just having a checklist just to go through and tick. And I do that the same thing. Like, for example, I used a checklist before setting up today. I made sure that, okay, I've got my lights, I've got my sound, I've got my process, I'm making sure I've even tested it to make sure it works, and I've done as much as I can before going live to you guys on both Instagram Live and all my other channels as well. So if anything does go wrong, hopefully I've mitigated it with that checklist. Of course, the checklist isn't going to cover everything, and people walking around and their kids walking around, I can't really help that, but it is what it is. But the reason that I've done that is because, even as some people look at me as, ooh, you're the professional. Well, it's because I've done it so many times. I've been able to work around it and get into a state of consistency. But I also keep a checklist to make sure that I tick it off before I do it every live or every video I do. Of course, when you do off the cuff stuff, that doesn't really matter as much. But when you're doing stuff that you're trying to focus on and get it right the first time, correction, if you're trying to get it right, well, then using a checklist is going to make that process a lot easier on your brain, but also a lot easier on you actually making sure that you don't record 2 hours worth of content and then realize you weren't recording. Yes, I've done that before. And the other thing that I wanted you to think about was practice makes perfect. So constantly practicing and honing your skills. Of course, you're not going to be perfect the first run or first go you have, but as you go along, you will get better over time. And that's the same thing with video and creating content. You're going to get a lot smoother and a lot easier with your delivery over time. And of course, your first time is going to be hectic. It's going to be scary because it's like, this is your first time giving it a shot. And you're like, oh no, things are going wrong. But eventually you get over those fears, and anything that fails or any glitches or anything that goes wrong, you can step over that. You can get over that quite easily because, you're not going to die. You're not dead. So why not? Yeah, that's pretty much been my process so far. I haven't died, therefore I'm going to just keep going. And the other thing that I want you to also think about is to think about the process. Yes, I did touch up on about that checklist just before, but think about the process of, okay, I'm going to, in my mind, that's probably in the second chunk that we're going to talk about, but in my mind, okay, how is this process going to go? I'm going to go through the checklist, make sure everything's all good. Okay, I've got my script, I know what I want to say. I can envision it in my mind of how it's going to look. I can envision of how I'm going to record it. I'm going to envision, okay, I'm going to know how to edit it, chopping off the ends, putting it all together, and then I'm going to put it online. Okay, envision, where is it going to go? Who is it going to be talking to? Who is going to be watching these? Is it going to be purely like on Facebook, or is it going to be on multiple streams and avenues? Where is it going to go? Envision that before you go ahead and do everything. And then once that's done, it'll be a lot. The best way to put it is, has anyone, feel free to comment below if you have, whenever you've, been a bit too tired to get up of a morning and you're just like, okay, I'm not really in the mood to do this. Please, let's not do this. And then you kind of drift off and not fall asleep exactly, but you kind of doze off a little bit. But your brain goes through the same momentum as if you were getting up. So your brain goes through the checklist of, okay, got to get up, brush my teeth, and walk through, make some breakfast, put on the kettle, all those things. And then you wake up and you realize, crap, I've just gone through all of that in my head and I haven't actually done it. All right, let's go, quickly get clothes on out the door and run and make sure I'm not late to work or school. That's kind of the same thing, but in a little bit more of a controlled environment, because your brain is already going through the process and you're already going through any problems that you might arise as you go through it. But because you've mentally already done it before, your body and also your emotionally, you'll feel ready because, I've already done this before. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I've done this before. This is easy. This is achievable, even though you may not have ever done it before. Good mental trick for you there. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Joel, for the likes. Keep them coming. I love ya. And yes, I know it's a bit out of term and a bit early for me to be doing this stuff, but we're still good. So let's move on to our first section of the day. So let's thinking about planning and scripting. Yes. So even before you set up your scene, or before you think about, okay, where am I putting this video? Am I putting it on Facebook? Am I putting this? Am I doing that? Am I putting my video on Instagram? Where is this video going? Scrap all that. First, think about your script. And say, for example, what I'm referring to down here at the bottom, I'm looking at my quick script. So this is the one that I have for this particular live. And I've also put together a version for myself for lives. And if you guys want a copy of this worksheet, you let me know and I can send it through to you. And I'll also be providing that as a workbook as well, and other things that I obviously do provide to all my workshop participants and people who buy packages and all that stuff that I'm getting set up right now. But essentially, these quick scripts do a few things for you and a few things for me too. They enable me to put my chaotic thoughts down onto paper, and it allows me to think about, okay, what is the point that I'm making with this video? Like, for example, with my live stream, my point or my message is to inform you on how to rehearse better for your videos. Simple as that. That's my one line. But also I can write down a few of my ideas that I have along the way that I can manipulate into my video, or in this case, into my live stream. Best thing that I usually recommend for people is not to write down full scripts word for word, because you'll have a tendency of doing this. You'll have a tendency of looking down at your page and not looking up at your camera and just looking down at what you have to say, because you're trying to get it right word for word. Now, of course, when you're talking about content that is going to stay up on your website for the next 5 years, probably think about what you're going to write down in script form, and then rehearse it multiple times, reading it without reading it, reading it without reading it, and giving that a couple of times before you do that. But for content that you're going to be posting up on, say, social media, or maybe on YouTube, or something that you're very passionate about, giving yourself dot points is going to be a lot easier for you to refer back to your script every now and again and go back to looking at the lens, because the lens is, and if you hadn't said it, don't worry. The lens is like the eyes of a human, the windows to the soul. And when you're not looking, so say, for example, right now, I'm not looking at the lens, either of the lenses, in fact. I'm not looking at the lenses. And as the person watching the content, you can tell that I'm not looking at you. You can tell that I'm directly connecting with this dot. Or for a lot of people out there, it's actually the viewfinder. They're looking at themselves, which, say, for example, a comedian that I enjoy watching on YouTube, his name is called Mac Does It. And his sense of humor is whack and it's insane. But you can tell that for a lot of his earlier videos, yes, they're entertaining, but he's clearly looking at himself in the viewfinder like this and doing all his crazy shenanigans and the wah, wah, wah. But he's clearly not looking at you or engaging with you in the audience. And now, over time, throughout comments and through other things, it's been addressed. And he's like, okay, I get it now. I should really be looking at the lens and not my face. But every now and again, you can see that he's just kind of looking over at his face. And that's the same thing with you guys who might be using your mobile phone. You might be, using the smaller camera that, yes, it has smaller megapixels, so it's slightly less quality, but it enables you to actually keep an eye on what the camera actually sees in frame. But unless you're looking at that tiny dot, you have a tendency of just looking down at something that's completely irrelevant and people aren't really paying attention. Now, that's not strictly script. I kind of went on a bit of a tangent there, and that's okay with live streams, and that's the same thing that's okay with your video. As long as it helps your customer, as long as it helps solve their problem, people aren't really going to mind. They're not really going to get angry. It's like, how dare you go off topic? I paid for this. They're not paying for it. They're fine. They're chill. They'll be okay. But the reason I mention having that quick script as part of your preparation or your way of rehearsing is because it allows you, like I said, to get your ideas from your head out onto page, so you don't have to stress and think about that too much. But it also allows you to think about exactly what you're talking about. Go through a couple of your points and write down ideas that you have to back up your points, to give yourself a little bit of a couple of ideas. And if you feel like, no, this doesn't really make sense, or it's not strong enough, or I don't feel like this is worthy enough to help people out, well then don't use it. Maybe put it in a pile of rejected ideas and you can go back to later and pick out nuggets as you go along. Your process is your process, of course. But when you rehearse, being able to have that quick script in front of you, it's cut up into little boxes, the ones that I provide anyway. There aren't other quick scripts out there, but I'm just saying that I've seen some people copy my ideas, but hi. And I'm not saying that my stuff is IP or, it's inherently, God forbid, the newest idea out there. But to be able to give yourselves these quick script templates and just have these boxes of, okay, we're going to address this and then go here, then go here, then go here. We do have different versions of quick scripts depending on if you're doing a live stream or if you're focusing on doing an Instagram live video, which essentially is the same type of template with just other prompts as to focusing on make sure that you invite people to your YouTube video here. Make sure you get people to like and subscribe, or click the bell, or on Facebook, make sure they share your video, what have you. It's essentially the same type of template, just with different prompts scattered throughout, of course. But as you rehearse, having the script in there and just in your line of sight that you can refer back to, look up to, and look back in the camera. Of course, when you're conducting a conversation with your best friend, a family member, or even a business associate, you're not constantly staring down the barrel of their eyes, constantly looking at them without blinking. Okay, I needed to blink then, that actually hurt. But you can see that when throughout regular conversation, you're not constantly looking at each other in the eyes. And you can blink, God forbid I need to, and you can also look down at your script and come back, and it's not going to be a detriment to the viewer. Of course, if you're looking down and just consistently looking down, then people are going to be like, okay, you're following a script there. I feel like it's not as genuine as you make it out to be. But now that you can see that I'm looking at you straight through the lens, that there is some sort of connection there, and that's hopefully the same thing that you're going to be garnering with your customers. So we've gone through the quick script. I do have videos on my YouTube channel, Facebook and YouTube and all those other places that go a lot more into detail about quick scripts and how you can use those. And as I said, the point of a quick script is just to get your ideas from your head to the page and enable you to figure out, okay, plan, all right, what is the point of my video? Okay, chunk it down into 3 steps, 3 examples, 3 whatever, just the 3 steps, the 3 ways of chunking down your ideas or your topics or your thoughts, and then making sure you sign off at the end of your video. And then once you've got that script down, have a strategy. I probably should have mentioned this before. So once you've got that script down, now to get to that script, you usually do think about who you're talking to and where the videos are going to go. And when you do a video, you hopefully have an idea that it's not just for you. And it's not just for your ego and your benefit, that when you do a video, you're actually doing it for your customer to help them solve a problem, to help to answer the question that they ask a lot, or a question that people ask of you. So say, for example, there's a video in the very long pipeline that I have, and I can always talk about batching, which I did for the last live stream, I believe, and other content out there. One of the videos that I have in the pipeline is a video that was asked of me of a insurance agent. I believe that's his title. An insurance agent. I'm pretty sure that's insurance professional. I'm going to call him insurance agent because I believe that's what he's called. But he's an insurance agent of the firm that I get my insurance from. And we met at a networking event, and he actually attended one of my workshops a couple of the weeks prior, and I said, how are you going with it? And because he was there asking a lot of good questions, and because of course we're all going to make money, I wasn't being able to offer him free coaching and stuff because I still have to make money, and I said, okay, how are the videos going? And he said, oh, I haven't done it yet. I'm like, Please. You had plenty of stuff to get you started. I gave you the quick script. I gave you the checklist. I gave you the motivation of a lifetime. And the reason that was stopping him, or the main focus for him that was stopping him, was because he's as an insurance agent, he's in insurance, and he really thought that no one wanted to listen to him. Who wants to learn about insurance? And I looked at him and said, me. You're talking to someone who's young, who was never really given a great financial education to frickin' begin with. Check out our upcoming podcast to discuss that. And I know nothing. I know insurance is there to take money away, and that's all I really get. And of course, now that I have regular insurance, I understand. I've never really had to use it. That's the thing. It's from what I have understood, it's a way of making sure that you pay money to make sure that if the worst comes to worst, you're not putting all the money that you have in your savings to do something. I'm not entirely sure. And his motivating thought was, no one wants to hear about insurance because it's boring. Well, don't make it boring. And himself personality wise is quite lively. He's quite fun. He's a good bloke to be around. And I had to work through that, but to be able to give him that strategy of, yes, people want to hear about insurance because it's something that they're paying for, usually a lot of money, and not really understanding as to why. Or when it comes down to providing a service that the insurance people provide, people like myself don't quite understand the difference between a broker and when I can just go online and look up insurances out there. What makes you different? I would probably like to know that, and especially people who are looking for insurance brokers out there, to have easy accessible video content that looks down the barrel of the camera and clearly says, we're the best because of A, B, and C. And that's something that I would love to know. And I'm sure a lot of people my age, and of course older and younger, would like to know that too. So the reason I went on that little tangent for you is to be able to think about, so while you're thinking about putting video content together, always think about the strategy of the content of the video. Yes, you're putting a video out there, but who is it aimed at? What problem are you helping them solve? What problem are you helping them solve? And where are they going to find that content? So once you figure out who, it can help you answer the rest of these questions as well. But to be able to think of a strategy a little bit ahead of time before you put that quick script out. The reason at the start of this, or nearing the start of this live stream, that I mentioned about, okay, just get it out there, just get your ideas onto paper, is because usually people think a lot about, okay, who's going to see it, and then really get stuck on, where is it going to go? Okay, if it's going to go on Facebook, should I think about it being like a 15 or 30 second video? Or they just think too much about it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's good to always think about what you're going to do before you do it. But to get stuck on it without taking action is the detriment to you, and of course why you're even doing video in the first place, is to get out there and help people. So if you're able to think about the strategy at least while you're writing the quick script, or even before you do it, to be able to think of, who is the video for? Is it going to be for your customer? Okay, can you give me a name? Most of you guys, hopefully in the business world, know what a customer avatar is. For people who are unaware, a customer avatar is a type of person that your businesses caters towards. Now, this type of person is a little bit more detailed than just, 20 to 30-year-old woman who likes yoga. That's pretty broad. A customer avatar gives you a lot of specifics in regards to, okay, where do they live? Okay, do they have any kids? And all these particular questions that may seem a bit intrusive on the outside, but it helps you get an idea as a business owner of where to put your funds in regards to marketing, where to put your efforts and your intellect into when it comes to marketing. And of course, these things change over time. Like, for example, Coca-Cola, the large company that it is, has upwards of 600 customer avatars, and they do different marketing campaigns on those avatars. And of course, with small to medium, even larger businesses, you don't really need to do that many customer avatars. But say, for example, we have 3 in our own sphere, in my own business, because of the services that we provide. yes, we would like to aim for, CEOs and people who need to get in front of the camera because, they're representing an entire company. But we also like to cater for small businesses and people who just want to utilize video to the best of their ability because it's being promoted heavily by the social media platforms and people want to see video. So think about who is going to see your content, or utilize your content is another word. So who's going to use the information that you provide? And then from there, once you figure out who is going to be using it, you'll be able to figure out, okay, what language should I use around it? Okay, if I'm talking to other professionals if I'm an insurance person and I'm talking to other insurance people or people in the insurance agency, I could probably use acronyms. I could probably use other words or other things that are very industry term based without having to explain them because, I'm talking to other insurance people. And then once I figure out that, I'll be able to figure out, okay, where is this video going to go? Okay, if I'm talking to other insurance people, I imagine probably talking on selected insurance forums or LinkedIn or specific ones. I would think probably Pinterest and Instagram, probably because of the type of communities that are on those places. And then once you figure out, okay, who am I talking to? What is the best way to talk to them and how to talk to them? You'll be able to figure out from there, okay, what is the best platform to put my content on? And for some people, starting out, I don't usually recommend this, but when you're a little bit of the way in, you've practiced a little bit more, it makes it a lot easier to put your content on multiple different platforms because you just need to see what works. So say, for example, with the live stream that we're doing right now, we live stream to a couple of different platforms because we have the ability to do so, but also I have the ability to learn, where are people engaging with me? Where are people commenting? And at the moment, it's on Facebook because that's where most of the content is. And that's where most of the people who are actively, working with us and who are actively using our services are. Then that's where I'll put the money. Good idea. Ooh, you went a little bit of a tick. Why? Nope. I believe it's working, so I'm not going to change. Okay, so now we've talked a little bit about that planning and get out of your own head aspect. I want to go on a little bit of a break, have a little bit of water, and let you guys know what's happening with Video Confidence Coach. I know it's a lovely sound, isn't it? All right, I'll try and make it less noisy. So, here's a little break from the content. As I said before, make sure you invite and tag and share anyone who would be, find any of this content helpful. They can always watch the restream. We got plenty of people that do that, and you can always ask your questions in the comments below, and I'll even answer them after the live stream has finished. Sorry, I've since my treatment, and I haven't actually mentioned this publicly in any real forums, I no longer have to go back into any treatment for a while. So for the foreseeable 8 months, unless anything dramatically happens within the meantime, I don't need to go in for any more cancer treatment, which is a good sign. The only problem is, as some people who have ever dealt with themselves or with loved ones with cancer treatment, there is a lot of aftercare that has to be dealt with. And right now, I'm currently dealing with some nerve damage in my right arm, specifically near my right shoulder, combination of nerve damage and cystitis, which for most people, and even myself sometimes, it's the band of fluid that helps the nerves don't damage when you move around, and that thing, it's broken somehow. And that has happened it happened a very long time ago, so I think, was it earlier this year? I think it was earlier this year, when going through treatment, there's a few different types of medications they give you, and depending on the type of treatment and the ways you're going about it, they'd give you different types of medication. And for people who have gone through the system of any kind, even if you've been in the hospital system, that they do, sometimes you do feel like a guinea pig sometimes, because yes, medicine is more like an art than a science. And one of the medications that they had got me on caused my right arm to shake, not violently, but like it kept twitching and it kept moving. And I didn't feel any pain or any bad stimulus. It just kept moving. So for about a week, 2 weeks, about a week and a half, it just kept shaking. And then it just stopped. Like we made a couple of changes in the medication and it just stopped. And I'm like, okay, he's good. Okay. Let's just hope I'm not going to have any severe, repercussions from this. After my treatment, behold repercussions. So, like, it did occur during my treatment, but I was a bit too preoccupied with the other things that were happening with my treatment to really focus on this. And now that I'm no longer going through active treatment and feeling like absolute crap, I'm now continuing to feel like crap because of this thing. And right now what I'm doing is holding up my elbow and pushing it against to relieve the stress, pain, whatever is going on. So, not a great thing, and it's not exactly a great look, but that's probably the best way to put it is of course there's lingering effects from the chemo treatment itself. I didn't have any radiation, thank God, but the chemo itself, of course there's continuing issues from that, but it's almost stuff that I can deal with. Like I knew it, through my treatment, I always knew it was coming. Even when I was young, I knew I was going to have this issue throughout my life. So I was kind of prepared for it. This thing, on the other hand, I'm not prepared for, and it hurts like hell. So I have to keep working through it. And like, say, for example, like I can do this. That's about as high as I can move my shoulder, and that's about as high as I can move it. And like, for example, I can pick up this guy. I can pick up the weights, but like I can't use it for long periods of time. The pain can be very inconsistent in regards to one day it can be like, oh, you can do anything. And the next day it's just like, you have disturbed me. So that's pretty much my existence. Now I've ranted a bit too much about my pain, so apologies for that. But the point of me taking this break was to save some water, but also let you know about video confidence coach news. So we don't have any workshops currently available at this time because we're currently in talks with people. We're currently in talks with Business and Heels. We're in talks with Creative Geelong, we're in talks with NAB, and we're in talks with a few different places about providing workshops and working through around that and working through that as we go along. So we don't have any workshops lined up as of yet, but hopefully I'll be finishing off some work this week to be able to focus a little bit more and a little bit more straightforward on the workshops. We'll also, starting as of next week, hopefully this week, but it doesn't seem to be like that. So hopefully starting as of next week, we'll be able to provide regular content. We'll be providing regular videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, with videos appearing on the YouTube channel and then subsequent social media content, funneling you guys to that. Not because we want to take, an audience away from the social media platforms, but even though YouTube isn't exactly a space that you have full control over compared to a website, see last week's live stream for more details. But YouTube, I've just got a slightly bigger platform and it's where people go to learn more. So another great thing. So what I'm going to do, now that this guy is hurting a little less, we're going to focus on the next 2 steps of our live stream. And as I said, if you have any questions or comments, comment below and I'll do my best to answer them during the live stream. All right, let's get on to the next thing. And you see I may be gesturing with this hand because this one I'm not going to touch. It's not hurting, therefore no touchy. So, getting back on the best ways to rehearse for your video. We've already talked about quick script and strategy of where you're going to put your video. So we've already thought about, okay, what am I going to say and where am I going to put it? You've already thought about this. But of course, that's not the only thing that's inherent in rehearsing for a video, or rehearsing of what you're going to say or how you're going to act or do anything. That's not the only thing that's inherent of a video. You've got other things to think about. So the next session I want to talk to you about is about talking it out. So making sure that you go through a couple of mental exercises before you hit record, and making sure that you test before you record your full thing anyway, and making sure that you go through these couple of steps of making sure that you imagine your customer on the other end when you record your video, making sure that you clearly enunciate your words, that you don't mumble, or that your microphone is sufficient enough to pick up your voice, you can do this via testing. And talking out your script and focus on motivating yourself during the rehearsal. And I'll go into a little bit more into detail soon. But what I want to stress to everyone who is rehearsing before a video, you can do a couple of warm-up exercises. We've already talked and we have a couple of videos on that on the YouTube channel where you can go like, just, loosening your lips, enunciating your vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and just stretching out your mouth so you can keep going. Doing a couple of, I can't really do it right now with this arm, but doing some like power poses and getting your like all ready to go, and just, listening to some motivating music before you get ready to go, and like do 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 do. And no, you can't copyright me on that Facebook or YouTube because you cannot tell which music I'm listening to. So you can give yourself and pump yourself that way. But when you're rehearsing, and a lot of people have a tendency of not doing this, but when you rehearse or you're looking at your script, that whenever you look at your script, you don't actually speak out the words out loud. So say, for example, looking at my script right now, it says, best way to rehearse for your video. Practice makes perfect. Think of the process. Now, I've just read that first message bit of my little script here, behind the scenes knowledge for you guys. But you can see that I enunciated it, that I read it out loud. And then when it comes time to actually, talking to you guys through the camera, I can do so in a way that makes sense. And it's, and I've already practiced it before. It's going to become a lot easier memory-wise, and it's going to become a lot easier for myself to be able to announce that fact to you because I haven't, done this. So you can see there that I didn't enunciate, that I didn't clearly talk it out loud. I just kind of mumbled my way through it because that's what I thought I was doing. I'm just reading through everything. And yes, you can definitely do that on your first time reading a script, especially if it's a new script to you. But you can just read through it, get your bearings, figure out who you got. Maybe do it through 2 or 3 times if it's a new script that's been given to you as opposed to one that you wrote yourself. And then making sure that you actually rehearse out loud. Of course, making sure that you do it in a place that you are able to. When you're in your office by yourself, it's fine. But say, for example, when you're on set, or when you're in a backstage at a conference, or when you're somewhere where you can't really speak out loud, maybe go outside or go into another room and practice ahead of time before you say it, especially if it's a long piece, and giving you that ability to talk it out. And making sure that you're emoting and that you're using the same gestures and the same tones of voice that you would use with your customer, as if you were recording the video there and then. As I said, it enables you to get into that field and that motion, but also it allows you to remember more because you're going to be doing the same thing that you're going to use, you're rehearsing, that you're practicing off. And I highly recommend doing that a couple of times before you begin. And there's a lot of people out there that can, mumble and go straight ahead and just do the right thing. That is great. Most people aren't. And most people who are doing it for the first time, or who are doing it, 3rd, 4th, 8th time, they're not going to do it straight away, and they're not going to bounce back into it right away. You're going to need a little bit more practice and a little bit more rehearsal time. And making sure that you're talking clearly. There's one thing that I definitely had to learn over time. Of course, depending on how exhausted or how tired I am, I don't always speak very clearly, and some people have noticed that and do comment on that. And for a lot of when I was younger, I didn't used to speak clearly. My parents put me into drama school, into acting school, to make sure I could actually speak properly. Mainly because when I was I was deaf when I was a child, but that's not your reason, not mine. No, it is my reason, but it's not going to help you. But the reason that you would speak clearly is so that people can understand you. And of course, if you have an accent in a language that is foreign to the accent that you're speaking in, or you feel like people aren't going to clearly understand you, that's okay. Just keep practicing and keep pushing to a point that you feel comfortable that people would understand you regularly. Or repeat yourself like I do multiple times during our live streams. As if I get something wrong, I just repeat myself and then hope you guys get it, and then wait for the comments for people to say, nah, that doesn't make sense, do it again. But you can see that I'm actually clearly, talking with you about the problem or about the topic, and making sure that I clearly make my point in my messages. And if I don't, I just pause and then repeat myself just in case. And when you're rehearsing, making sure that you're focusing on See, there's an example just then. I stopped, paused, and then we go again. So when you're rehearsing, making sure that you focus on your customer. Now, of course, I already mentioned that in the first section, but when I say focusing on your customer, as in look at your camera lens and envision your customer avatar, the person that you want to sell to, the person that you want to help, envision their eyes sitting there. Now, of course, that can be a bit confronting, like, okay, you're just staring at me. But just imagine that you're in a coffee shop, that you're in a nice cafe somewhere on the outskirts of whatever city or town you're in, and the customer is just there sitting on the opposite side of the table to you, just looking at you, got a coffee in hand, and they're just nodding and looking at you like I'm doing now. Say, for example, we're going to ignore the stains. So say, for example, I'm your customer. I'm sitting at the other end of the table. I'm looking at you and I'm nodding as you talk because I'm interested in what you have to say. Just imagine that. Of course, I need to blink and be human, but just imagine that in your mind, because it'll make it a lot easier than staring at a cold, lifeless lens or cold, lifeless phone that all you can see is that you can see your vision in the corner of it in the humans. Like right now, I can see myself on like 3 different screens, and it can be a bit cumbersome if you're not used to it. That's what the practicing is for. Do tell more. See, I'm your customer at the other end, and we're going to ignore that because that's my coffee cup that I still need to clean. And I don't drink coffee, I drink hot chocolate. That's still my... I'm trying to make a point. Okay, let's get back to what I was talking about. So when you rehearse, making sure that you follow your script or follow the idea of your script and do it to the best of your ability. Of course, if you're doing a live stream, it's going to be kind of hard to practice to an hour of talking when trying to rehearse with something. But say, for example, if you're doing a 30-second video or a minute video, especially content that's going to be known as evergreen content, feel free to see last week's live stream about that, where evergreen content is content that's going to stay on your website, on your social media, on your YouTube, whatever. It's going to stay there for a very long and be relevant for a very long period of time. You want the content to be good. You want the content to reflect you and your business well. So you do that by rehearsing a couple of times. You do that by looking at your script and making sure that you rehearse the points as you go along. Of course, if something is too long, you can always shorten it. You can always take bits out and you can always shorten it. Of course, if something is too short, then it's kind of hard to make it longer without filming other bits on top of it. So don't be afraid if you feel like you're rambling too much. When you go back into the editing chair, now this obviously could be on your mobile using a simple app on any of the tutorials that we have on the YouTube channel, link in the description. No, it's not in the description right now, but check out Video Confidence Coach on YouTube. But using any of those simple apps, you can actually objectively go back, and even though it is your face and your voice, you can still be objective and think, okay, that bit where she goes on a little bit of a tangent. So watching this, when I go on a little bit of a tangent about the strategy of who I'm talking to with the insurance guy, okay, let's cut that out for the main video. I might do that. But the point is that you can objectively do it at the end after you've put all the effort of recording your video to start with. But we're still in that pre-production stage of actually rehearsing it. So we've talked about how to talk it out, about thinking about and all those methodologies to go in. Now let's focus on the actual practice. So you've already gotten the tools of, you've already got a script, you've already written it out, you've already put your ideas through it, you already know who you're talking to, where you're talking to them to, and why you're talking to them. We've already discussed about putting your customer in the eyes of the camera, so you're not just talking to a lifeless lens. And we've already talked about being clearly and making sure that when you rehearse as you would if you were talking to the camera, making sure that you're clear with your voice, that you're emoting as you would normally, and you speak at a level that is clear for the camera as you rehearse. And now the practicing comes. So practicing is twofold. Of course, it gives you that knowledge to remember what you're actually talking about without having to stare at the piece of paper that tells you what to say constantly over time. But it gives you that ability to practice a couple of times and give yourself a little bit of confidence and a little bit of comfortability. That's a word, that you can look at the camera and feel okay with what you're about to talk about or how you're going to help people. And going through that, making sure that you're actually practicing and focusing on the camera lens as you do so is going to be a big plus. And practicing, for some people, you can only need to practice once and you'll be ready to go and do it. For some people, you may need to practice maybe 2-3 times. I personally recommend anything over 5 times is a bit overkill. Not because, you're doing it wrong, or you're clearly not meant for video. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you're over 5 times of practicing, maybe there's something holding you back, or maybe there's a phrase, or maybe there's a line, or maybe the message or point of the video itself is kind of stopping you and just thinking, yeah, maybe people don't really need to hear this. Now, I'm not saying this as a way of, getting out of doing videos entirely. Of course, you need to do videos for. G'day, Video D. Of course, you need to go out there regularly and actually, do your videos and do it regularly. But when I say about not feeling the vibe from your video, you've rehearsed it 5 or 6 times and you're just not feeling that it makes a lot of sense, then rewrite it. You have the quick script template, you can just write it again. And hello. And if it doesn't work out, well, then do it again. And you can rehearse that a few more times and see how you go and see how you feel about it. Because maybe just not the message is directly on point, or the problem or solution or what have you that you want to address. That's okay. Make a change and do it again. But people still need to hear you help their problems. People still want to understand and be taught and educate themselves on the best way to not make a mistake. That's essentially what people want to hear when they go online. They don't want to make a mistake. So if you can provide that help, they're more likely to trust you and to hear from you, and obviously want to follow you and hopefully get your services in the future. But that's essentially what we're doing as marketers, especially in the past couple of years, is it's a trust generating machine as opposed to informing people to then buy your product. Keep that in mind. So we've already gone through the practice a couple of times. If you get to the 5 or 6, maybe see how your script is and maybe retweak it and change it a couple of times if you're still not happy with it. But say the average amount of times is 2 to 3 times. If you're talking about a subject that is especially dicey, or a topic that is inherently quite complex, well then maybe try and simplify it, because if it's complex for you, there's a good chance it's going to be complex for your consumer or customer and it's going to be quite complex for them to get their heads around it. So maybe if you can think about maybe breaking down that subject, so again, getting another quick script sheet and just maybe taking one of those little topics within your entire script and just focusing on that. Yes, it means you're going to be creating more videos over the time, but hey, series, content, and especially social media and especially YouTube love series where you create multiple pieces of content surrounded with that one theme, or it can be progressive series that people learn over time, and that's what they love. And people love that too. People enjoy the ability to binge content, the ability to have content on demand and just watch a whole lot in one go. So A, they can feel educated, and B, they can feel like they're like, hey, I can have the ability to, be better myself as I go along. Yes, more content, please. And as they watch more of your stuff, they're going to develop more trust with you and for you, and inherently, they might buy your stuff. So once you got through that practice 2 or 3 times, and like I said, it's not the be all and end all, but for some people, if it gets to that 5 or 6 time, maybe there's something you need to tweak on the actual script. So you've practiced a few times. Now it comes time to the time where you actually test your equipment. So by this point, you would have already rehearsed your video in the same seat or standing, or positioning yourself with the camera that you've already set up. See the before I press record checklist for that. Turn everything on, make sure everything's okay, and then press record. Now this isn't official, this is just a test. What this does, it does a few things. It allows you to check if your microphone's working, if your lights are working, if anything needs to be changed or moved, if your camera has enough storage. There's been plenty of times where I've recorded something, even recording regular workshops here at Creative Geelong, or regular workshops that I conduct, and I just hit record and I didn't check how much room there was, and it just kind of cut out 5 minutes in. Yeah, not great. But I've been able to test that and make sure it works and works for me. And that's the same thing that you should do too. Probably if you're doing a, above 2-minute video, probably don't go through the entire video on that test, but say do 30 seconds, 40 seconds, do that intro so it's nice and strong and you're ready to go. And then once you've recorded that, stop, click the record button again so it stops recording, and then view it back. Now, for some people, there can be an inherent, "Ooh, I don't actually want to watch myself. Ooh, I don't look good," or, my hair's looking crazy. I have that problem. Or I don't look great. Oh, I don't want to listen to myself. Unfortunately, you're going to have to get over yourself to view this test. And this test, you're not looking at how you look or how you sound. You're saying, okay, can I hear myself? Am I clear? Okay, is the lights working? Do the lights, do what they're supposed to do? Is the camera doing okay? Go through the technical elements first. Worry about yourself later, in a minute. But go through those technical elements first and then see how that feels. Okay. Maybe I need to be a little louder so the microphone can pick up my voice a little better. Cool, I'll focus on that next time. And if you want, you can do another test if something has gone drastically wrong. So say, for example, there's been plenty of times where I've done a test video, done 30 seconds, stopped, looked back at the video, and the lights are just like, they look terrible, they look bad, nothing is in the right place, it looks awful. Okay, so what I would do, thank you for the light, Cassie. What I would do is then I would move the lights around in the right place, making sure it looks okay in the camera, and then do another test. So yes, I've done a second test, but it's not about what I've said or how I'm saying it. It's about how I look in the camera, and if the lights are, doing me justice. Because I know I'm pale and I'm red, and I know I can look bad if the lights aren't doing a decent job. So that isn't inherently a terrible thing. So we're about to finish up in about 10 minutes. But what I would love to know from you guys. Oh, thank you, Cassie. Cassie just commented below saying, great tips, thank you. And thank you for watching and commenting. And, okay, that's a message I will check out later. But I wanted to thank you for that comment, Cassie. So hopefully you've got that, once you've got through that process, you've already done all this stuff so far. You've already put a script together. You've already gone through the, before I press record checklist. You've already talked it out. You've already put all the effort into it so far. So why chicken out now? Press record again and go for it for real. And if you stuff up, is okay. You've got control. Click record, set yourself up again, and do it again. You can do it a couple of times. And then find out what the best take is for you. I don't recommend doing it any more than 3 times, mainly because A, you'll get bored, B, you will overexert yourself and you'll feel a little bit more stressed, and you can just chill. Make sure that you get it right, and one of those things is going to be right for you. Of course, if you're doing a 15+ minute video, I don't recommend doing it multiple times, because why would you want to do it multiple times? How many hours of the day do you really have? Probably not that many. So being able to effectively practice beforehand and get that video out in 1 or 2 takes is going to be a lot more beneficial to you and your business than just stressing and trying to make it work for you by doing it like 5 or 6 times. So I hope this makes sense for you, and I hope that you've enjoyed this lovely live stream journey today. Yes, it is a little bit early. We did start at 3 p.m. as opposed to our usual 6 p.m., but I hope you have enjoyed the ride. Our call to action for the day, like I said in all of our live streams and all of our videos, we highly recommend that you leave with a call to action. Our call to action is going to be booking us for a coaching session. So if you feel like any of the stuff has really resonated with you and you want a one-on-one session with us, check out our links, or just email, DM, we'll provide the links. The links to book with us are all over all of our media. But I highly recommend that if you want something that's really directed to you and your business, and you're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed, that you just don't know where to start or where to begin, get us for a one-on-one session, and we'll be able to give you a lot more guidance than the general stuff that we provide here on our social media. So I'm just going to leave you guys. You can check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, big player on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and on the dovideopodcast.com. I'm going to finish up because Instagram Live is telling me you're about to end, Zoe. Goodbye. So I'm going to leave you guys to it and hope you have fun. All right. Bye.